Good morning and welcome to OSW Daily. What a day we have in store today. And I am so happy to have guest. This is the guy who started everything with this, Mike Petresky from iOffice. But what are we going to talk to Mike about today? Today we're going to talk about a number of things. But this is your first time coming across the channel. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming, and hopefully you find something from this. If there's something you like, please do hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you have any questions for Mike or myself, please feel free to drop those in the comments, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are, they all come through and we will get to see them. So please do those things. I do also encourage you to check out opensourceworkplace.com. So please do go check it out. And you've got a lot of content there. So what are we going to talk to Mike about today? So wearing clothes while working from home, how we feel productive, readiness to return to the office, and what positives do you think COVID-19 pandemic can actually have on the workplace long term? But more importantly, I just want to say a big thank you and a big welcome to our guest, Mr. Mike Petresky. Mike, how you doing, sir? Good to see you, man.
Yup. I'm back, Steve. I'm back.
Yeah,
Cheers.
you are. It's
How are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really, really good. It's it's really good to see you. I'm sure you've seen the media headlines. I'm sure you've seen the social media conversations that have been going on since you left the show. People think we've had a breakup. People think we're not talking anymore. But I need you to put the record straight here, man. I need you to put the record straight.
It's all true. It's all true, folks. I can't stand this guy. No. I am so pleased to see you again, Steve. It was all my fault. I can't continue at this level of incredible content creation. You are a machine, and I just don't have the stamina for it. So something had to give, but I'm glad I was able to come back as a guest. Don't call it a comeback, Steve, as the great LL Cool J once said. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
Yeah, you have. And you will be here for years.
But you've been doing great. I've been watching. And great guests, great conversation, the workplace, never-ending topics to discuss during our pandemic life.
It's the beautiful thing about it. Every day, people, you think about, we go back, we started this in March, right? OSW Daily, we started back in March, and we were like, well, what are we going to talk about every day? And it's just like, the situation just keeps changing, evolving, and we have the ability then to sort of keep going. And so, I mean, obviously, we haven't seen you in a little while, Mike. I know you're busy. You obviously have your Workplace Innovator podcast. You have your Asset Champion podcast that you're doing now. I know you're doing a lot of more things internally at iOffice. So, I mean, how's everything going with you?
Are we going to talk about my digital wall and hitting the digital wall? Listen, I'm doing well. I've found a balance in life. I think I've been able to strike a little bit of a balance. It's not perfect. Every day is an adventure. Some days are good. Some days are better. And some days, it's okay if you don't have a perfect day every day. Optimism, as Simon Sinek told me, is not about being positive all the time. It's about being optimistic, meaning that knowing that we're going to get through. This is a challenging time for all of us. We're going to get through. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And that doesn't mean you have to be positive every day. I have some not so positive moments, some not so positive days, but overall, I think I've been able to put up some guardrails, turn off the computer, turn off the digital world, the virtual existence for a little while, and go outside and see the now beautiful, this October time of year here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic where I am, Steve. It's beautiful, right? Leaves are changing colors. U2 is playing in the background. October, and the leaves are stripped bare, or the trees are stripped bare of all they wear. What do I care? October. It's like my favorite album from U2. So it's a great time of year.
There you go, man. No, see, I miss this, man. I miss it. I'm just smiling all the time. That's not to say my other guests don't make me smile. They do, obviously. But there is something innate with you that just brings that out of me. And I don't believe people ever think for 1 second that DJ Mike is ever down. They always think he is always upbeat, because that's who you are, man.
Well, again, I want people to know the authentic me and know that you can't possibly be this way all the time. When that light goes on, sure, I'm in the spotlight. I have to put the energy forward, but But hey, we're all in this together, folks. If you're struggling, I am too. Reach out. We all have things in common. We can get through. Steve, I want to ask you. The minute we stopped doing these daily conversations, of course, things would come up, and I want to ask you about them. And I just didn't have that outlet. I didn't have the opportunity. But shortly after we stopped working together on this, you actually were on vacation for a while, and then you came back, and I didn't. But it was around that time there was a lot of conversation about your hometown there in New York City, and is it dead? James Altucher, did you read his article on LinkedIn? And then Jerry Seinfeld's response about New York City is dead. No, it's not. It'll never die. You live there. You've experienced life in New York City for a long time, and now you're living through the pandemic. Have you been downtown? Do you go down at all to see the NASDAQ offices or wherever, and just kind of look around and think this is not the same New York?
I do remember having that conversation with you, and I did have a number of conversations with people on that very topic. Those who live in New York, who have locations and manage offices in New York, businesses who are headquartered in New York, and it was a big conversation. I think the conclusion is New York has proved itself time and time again that it always keeps going. It never stops, right? It is that city. Yes, there are times today when we look at the city and we go, maybe not, but New York will always be New York. It will always attract talent. It will always attract big organizations. And I think people will always want to be there. Now, have I been to the city? I have not. I do want to go, but at the same time, I don't want to go. My mindset hasn't really changed from when we used to talk about this on a regular basis. I do look at it and I do think, should I go in? Should I not go in? But I just don't want to risk the commute. People have asked me, well, why don't you drive? I said, I could drive. The drive may take me 90 minutes to 2 hours to get in and home again. So that's 4 hours of my day. Is that the most productive way for me to spend my time? And I know at some point I will go in. I suspect I would likely go in on a weekend where I suspect it's going to be a little quieter, like a Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, where I can zip into the city, take a quick scoot around, maybe get my bike out and cycle around the city just to see what really is going on, because I think you get a very different view whenever you're on your bike, and then drop into the offices, because it's hard to remember what the office looked like. It's hard to remember what it felt like to be in an office. And as we sort of think about, it's been 7 months, what's it going to feel like in another 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 12 months? What's that going to feel like? And you and I first started doing this in March, and we talked about, well, when do you think people go back to the office? When do you think things go back to normal? And I think what we're realizing is it is going to be a while, but I think most organizations, most people have, sort of adjusted and sort of developed new ways of working, created new habits. True. I think that's what's going to come through, But no, I appreciate the question, man. It's good. So I mean, and you're obviously well connected in the FM world, and you're well connected in many different networks. Is that sort of the things that you're hearing, and whenever you think of New York City, but it's not just New York City, it's San Francisco, right? It's London, it's Boston, it's Chicago. It's a lot of big cities who are going through the same thing.
It is. And I do hear the same thing. You speak for a lot of people in your hesitation to want to return, and the recognition that, I can be productive at home. But again, to cut to the chase, the bottom line for me is, how sustainable is this over what period of time, and what has to give at some point, whether we get to the other side of a vaccine and we get to the, it's funny how we used to talk in the early days of this OSW Daily about, the treatments and the science and the data coming in about case counts and, potential solutions. It seems like we've all settled into an understanding of that we're going to live with COVID-19 for the indefinite future. So therefore, my mind shift has been one to say, how can we manage this sustainably, with obviously our businesses in mind, but our health and safety top of that, and then also blending the two and coming up with a sustainable workplace and life, scenario where we can continue to keep ourselves going and sustain ourselves and sustain our businesses and sustain our our society and our economy. So I know I'm going to have you on my show later today at noon Eastern on the Workplace Innovator live stream. And I'll ask you a lot of questions then. I didn't mean to derail your agenda
No,
this
no, no,
morning. I know
you're
you have
fine, man.
questions for me.
Of
So
course I
we'll talk more about it. But I
do.
think you do speak for a lot of people. And yeah, I think it's it's not a solvable problem in the sense that there's no one solution. It's more of an evolution of our thinking and our understanding of what's best for each individual, depending on their level of vulnerability and what makes them not just productive in the sense of, outputs. I could do a lot of things each day. I knew that I could crank out a lot of podcasts. You could crank out a lot of videos. We could do a lot of work from home productively. And at the end of the day, you can count all that stuff we did. But what is the outcome we're looking for as an organization, as a society, as people? The outcomes need to be aligned with our bigger mission and a sustainable one. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no, no, I like the way you said that outcomes, right? There seems to be a lot of shift towards actually focus on the outcomes. What are the outcomes that we want to deliver? We talk about productivity, we talk about the various inputs, but what are those outcomes and what are those things that we're shooting for? But when I was, when we were talking about the topics to talk about today, and I sort of thought I'd get things that are in your wheelhouse. The first one I'm going to pull up, which I think is kind of interesting, for you and I. So it's
Yeah.
80% of those working from home feel more productive when they're dressed up. So here's you, in your shirt with your coffee, nice. Here's me casually dressed. And I guess you're in your work attire. I don't know if this is called gym attire, but in essence, you're going to be more productive according to a study, because you're wearing a shirt, and I'm going to be less productive because I'm wearing, a little t-shirt. What do you think about that? How do you think?
Well, as David Letterman once said, I'm not wearing pants. No, that's not true. I am always wearing pants, but they're comfortable pants. And the question should have been asked, what is your wardrobe from the waist up on this survey? And I think that's kind of funny. I'll tell you what, I've been a remote worker for a long time. I've been
Yeah.
one to experience life a lot more than these last 7 months in a virtual sense. But it is different now. With everyone working from home, the expectations are different. The camera's on, time is different. I used to have that choice. It used to be like, hey, I don't have my camera on because I didn't shower that day. And sometimes I wouldn't shower. I'd have a baseball cap on. I knew I'd be sitting doing a lot of head down work, just working on a podcast or whatever. So I just wouldn't put this hair into place, and I would just put a baseball cap on. So therefore, when my bosses would call a conference call, even if it was over Zoom, the camera was off. I didn't worry about it. I think the change in our cultures in March, in April, and May, and into where we are today, a lot of expectation is you're going to be either in scheduled meetings or into an impromptu meeting. You better be dressed. You better look like you're ready to talk about it. And that can mean different things for different people. And I don't think it's necessary to wear a collared shirt and look like you would if you walked into an office. But I think to the researcher's point, and I don't know how we talked about the article there, or the article talks about the fact that it's research in a sense from a company that wants to sell you coupons to buy clothes, which again, you've always told me. This great wise person named Stephen Todd once told me, what's the question behind the question? And I always think about that when I see any type of survey results. And in this case, wardrobe, it was a talk about conversation about buying, being more productive when you're wearing business attire. I buy into it to the sense that, yes, when I'm showered and dressed and ready for my day, even if I don't have a planned agenda with a lot of online meetings, I just feel more engaged with the work I'm doing. And again, that's a personality thing. It's not necessary for success. And I don't think there should be any hard and fast rules about a dress code. But at the same time, just in practical terms, if you want to get your day off to a good start and be in a mindset of work and productivity, why not shower? Why not get dressed and feel the part? And again, that part, even in our offices, was changing. The corporate cultures were changing about what, suits and ties versus just shirts like this or what have you, khaki pants. So it does matter. I think people should be comfortable from the waist down, though. With those cameras on, it's okay, whatever you're wearing.
I actually saw another company that actually has started selling from the waist down clothes for people who are working from home. So in other words, is there more comfortable clothes you can be wearing from the waist down whenever you're working from home? Because of just all those reasons you articulate. So it just shows you with these, there's always opportunities, there's always new markets out there. But I do find that fascinating. And you know, I always when I went to the office, right, I was always known I would be shirt, tie, jacket all the time, continually, and I'd never take it off. And people would often come up and ask me, says, "Why don't you take your jacket off?" I says, "I don't know. I feel like that way I'm dressed for work, and that's what I'm there to do." I've almost created the same type of thing at home where I always wear a dark t-shirt, be a polo shirt, be a t-shirt, whatever that is, and that's just what I do. And some of it is just brain fatigue. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about, oh, what color shirt did I wear yesterday, or whatever that was. I just like,
Right.
okay, just whatever's next in line, come out you come, you know. So
It's
it
the
is
Steve
interesting,
Jobs
but yeah,
philosophy. If you
that
didn't
is
ever see Steve
exactly
Jobs, jeans and a black t-shirt was always his
always
uniform.
the same,
So it is a personal
always the
brand thing, right, Steve? I tell you what, let me kind of address that. And I know we have limited time, but the idea of, do you have a mandate from your organization? There's none that's come through from mine. I think it's an individual choice, but I think what should come through, and maybe hasn't, is some protocols around permission to maybe not have the camera on for every meeting. Is that something that you feel has been expressed, communicated? You know, have parameters been laid out that it's okay to have your camera off at certain times, you must have it on at other times? I think there's an expectation, unless it's expressly, given, that in my world anyway, to keep the camera on. And I'm not sure that's the most optimistic scenario.
yeah. There's been no definitive direction on when your camera's on or when your camera's off. I think if people want to have their camera off, there's no issue. It does feel a little weird if you're on a two or three person call and there's two people on video and one's not. That feels awkward a little bit. And I think whenever you get to that situation, then other people will turn their camera off just to be consistent, so everyone feels the same as in the same place.
Mm.
But no definitive. But I do know that some people do whenever, like for example, during town halls, during larger meetings with our large groups, where maybe you're more in a listening mode rather than a participating mode, then a lot of people will turn their cameras off. I certainly turn my camera off at that point. I usually actually use those opportunities to go for a walk, get some air, and listen to town halls, etc., like that as well. So there is a lot of
Yeah.
things like that, but no, nothing definitive. But I have heard many companies have given permission and have expressed, that guidance. You know,
Well, it's
so
good. I think they should, because I think that the void is often filled with worry and concern if you don't know for sure what the rules are. The fact that you're given permission to make the best choice for you, depending on
hmm
your situation and the scenario, is one that would be, to me, the ideal. And that'll lead into other conversations here we're going to have about, is it the employer dictating things about our remote work life and the future experience in the office, or is it the individual making those
mm
choices?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's flip to another piece of content, and this was something that was created for published by John Arena, the CEO of Serendipity Labs, where he surveyed his customer base. Obviously, those are folks who come into their co-working studios and space, and what is their appetite to, how do they feel about coming back, when are they ready to come back? And I think and this is a comparison between June and October, and I think what we're seeing and what is being presented here is we're getting ready. People want to come back, and some people are more ready than others. There are less people that are not ready, and I think what that shows is that, one, there's an indication that yes, okay, I want to go back. We don't know what that means and how frequently people want to go back, but I just find it interesting that it is more. And I don't know whether you're saying or you're hearing that through your networks, and that's sort of what people are saying to you.
Well, I need to ask this question again. I think I will today on my live stream. It's been a few weeks since I have it. It's been a consistent question I brought up again and again. I've tweaked the language a little bit each time, but the general consensus, the trend, I should say, in the early days, when we started asking the question, maybe it was the April, May timeframe. And it was like, when will you be going back to the office, or when will you feel ready to go back to the office? People were saying June, July, then it was maybe Labor Day. And you would see that, kind of split. I'd have 4 or 5 responses, and I'd see 20% among each. There was this divisiveness, or this kind of across the board response to the question. And then as the summer dragged on and it became clear at the end of summer, kind of the time frame of this survey from Serendipity Labs, that July to now present day, for me, it's been the opposite trend. I've seen my audience saying, no, I don't want to come back. In fact, ask me in 2021 or after a vaccine is widely distributed. So I find that kind of interesting that in his, and I think it's how you phrase the question and how people hear the question. Do I want to get back and do you want to be back in front of your colleagues and have that human connection and experience something beyond the isolation and the virtual world that we have during our quarantine life? Absolutely. But do you feel safe? Do you feel ready? How do you ask that question? And will you go back, or when will you go back, or when will you feel comfortable going back? Those are questions that all of a sudden say, well, no, ask me later. I'm not there yet. But I think there's a desire, certainly among all of us after 7 months of either mostly isolation or almost for many people, all, disconnect from our in-person office interactions. There's a desire to get back at least part-time.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because obviously with Serendipity Labs, they're spread across geographies, right? So, big presence in Georgia, New York, and multiple other locations throughout the US. I know they're trying to push into Europe as well. So it's interesting that big cities, people do want to go back, and there is that intent. So I find that interesting as well. So the third piece of content we wanted to look at today was all around remote work. What positives can come out, and what positives do we think we've seen in the pandemic that actually could be a long term? I find this really interesting. Greater acceptance of employers who benefit of remote work. I think, we've talked about this in the past. I think perspectives have shifted dramatically. It's not just employers. I think you almost put that employees have also appreciated actually we can work remotely, and they've seen the huge benefits of working remotely. But I was surprised with that. But the digital tools not surprised me, the adoption and flexibility that companies have shown to adoption of new technologies and the swiftness with which they've deployed a lot of those technologies.
Yeah. How did you read that though? And when I drilled down on that one particular area, I said, yeah, sure. Digital tools and technology, using that to make our remote work life sustainable is great. And I believe in that. But there's something about this was a survey of HR professionals, and it said they're able to monitor and, search through the communications and get more from that than they could in the other way, I guess, where people were in the office together talking.
You spent way too long with me, mate. You spent way too long with me.
Well, am I onto something here, Steve?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't go there, but that's interesting. It's not to say I'm not absolutely saying you're right, but it's fascinating actually with that. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I see again, technology tools as a positive to allow more control and choice for the employee. And for some reason, maybe I misread it, but there was something in that survey that kind of signaled to me this was about HR reps saying they have more control to monitor. And I don't think it went into like the whole productivity monitoring of keystrokes and things like that, looking over the shoulder digitally of their employees. If that was the case, I think that would be a negative. I don't think that's a long-term positive. I think the idea, the first one was very clear. The idea that if your employer pre-pandemic was not open to remote work or flexibility of your work choices, this has proven to them, hey, you are able to be productive and you are trustworthy and you can gain that level of control over how you work best and make those choices depending on your day, depending on your responsibilities. And that was another positive in the results that said, there has been a building of that culture of trust and kind of connection between employers and employees. And I'm sure that's the case for many organizations, but maybe not. Some organizations just haven't been able to resist the temptation to say, you must come back and I need you to give me a daily log of what you did, or I'm going to be monitoring your keystrokes using some software. That lack of trust is something that I think will continue to be a problem for certain organizations. But the positive side and the results of this survey, what I took away was that there are some very good silver linings to this pandemic life that we can hopefully build on going forward.
Yeah, yeah, and the other one that was I found interesting was the increased attention on mental health. I think there's an appreciation
Yeah.
related to that. I think we often forget about what happens outside work and that attach that emotional thing from the human side of things because we're in the office, we're all there to do this one thing. We have this one
Yeah.
objective for the organization. Where today there is a clear appreciation of the mental side of things. I think organizations, most, if not all, have reacted really positively to this and provided a lot of support for employees, for especially those who are struggling. But then also the appreciation of actually, you as an individual, you need to do this for yourself. I mean, how long did people go without taking a vacation day from the moment of lockdown?
Mm.
It was a long time.
Yep.
And it was almost prescriptive from employers to actually encourage employees to actually take time for themselves, take time to go away, just get out of the house or do whatever it is you wanted to do. So I think that's a great benefit that's come out, and I hope it is sustained when we get back to the new normal. We haven't said that in a while.
Yeah, you got to say that. In fact, that's the name of Lori Rollinson's book. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I did.
The New
I did.
Normal.
Yeah, I saw a little
And
interview
I
you did.
recommend it highly, folks.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon, Kindle for free if you're already a Kindle subscriber. But I had the honor of being interviewed by Lori about that and some of the questions around the long-term impacts of this COVID-19 existence and the changes that'll be happening in the workplace and the future of work. And boy, I hope that for the most part it is positive, but I just have this gut feeling that we're going to really be challenged in the next 6 months, a year, maybe longer, as some of the ramifications from the lockdown and from this sustained work from home situation, if we can't get people feeling comfortable coming back and we cannot create an environment where they have that mindset where they're going to take some risk and come back into the world and do it safely, do it obviously with all the protocols in place to make this something that we can sustain long term. I think we've been running on adrenaline. A lot of my guests have said this, and I won't take credit for it, but we can do a lot as human beings in the short term when a crisis hits. We've proven that time and again. A crisis hits, people react. Human beings are really resilient and are able to, rise up to the occasion. But can you do it over months and even years? And how realistic is that we won't see some fallout? And I know there's reports of mental health problems hitting our young people, especially. The younger workers among us are probably feeling stunted in their careers, not able to grow, not able to get the mentorship and the experience that they need to move forward or feel like they're contributing in a positive way to the mission of an organization. And that's so essential to them and to all of us. So I want to keep an eye on it. I want to be that voice that is not afraid to say, get help if you need it, help each other, use those available well-being resources that your organization has now highlighted and made available if they didn't have them before. Don't be afraid to do that. And I think there's still going to be some stigma about that, but we got to break through some of that if we're going to make through this in the long run.
No, I think it's a great thing. Well said. It's a great way to wrap this up. Mike, it's been great to see you. It's been great to chat
Awesome.
with you once again, and it sort of feels like
Same here.
we just swum right into where we were. So it was really really good. So I appreciate it.
It's like
I'm
riding a
looking
bike,
forward.
Steve. Like riding a
It is
bike.
like riding a bike. It is, and I'm looking forward to being on your live stream later today. So I look forward to chatting with you later. So folks,
Can't
look,
wait.
thank you for your time. Thank you for your time today. Please do go check out opensourceworkplace.com, where you can see a lot of content all around workplace or workplace productivity. And if you like this and you hung around to the end, thank you. I appreciate it. Do consider subscribing, hit that notification bell so you're alerted to all upcoming videos that we will be going live with.